Hello there, my name is Mackenzie. Welcome back to my channel, and thank you so much for being here. Today it is a very rainy day and we are going to be talking about this book right here. We are doing another reading my favorite author, Silvia Moreno-Garcia, undoubtedly my favorite author. I have given the most 5 stars to this author, and we will be reading This Strange Way of Dying, which is a collection of short stories. So a little bit of the history that I have with Moreno-Garcia. I know I did a video just recently when I read Signal to Noise, so I'll link that up in the cards. So I'm not going to go too much into detail, but I'll give you the overall stats. So as of today, January of 2023, I have read all novels to date, 1 novella, and 2 short stories, totaling out to be 11 works. 7 of those works I gave 5 stars, and 4 of them I gave 4 stars. 4 stars is the lowest that I have given Moreno-Garcia. She was first published in 2011, and she spans multiple genres and multiple time periods. More often than not, however, the location is set somewhere in Mexico. This Strange Way of Dying is her debut collection. So Signal to Noise was her debut novel, but this was written and published even before Signal to Noise came out. So Signal to Noise came out, I believe, in 2014, and this is 2011. So this collection of short stories has 15 short stories, one of which I have already read, which is Flash Frame. I will be rereading it for this video and seeing if anything changes or if I have anything more to say. So I think what I'll do is I will be checking in with you, I guess, at the end of every story. I'll check in with you and I will let you know my rating for each story, and then we will evaluate a rating based on the cumulative score and an average rating of the short stories that are in it. I think that's the best way to rate short story collections. So Moreno-Garcia has edited a few other short story collections that she may or may not have a short story within that collection. However, this collection is all of her own short stories. So I have already read the first one, which is Scales as Pale as Moonlight. So this short story kind of plays with the mythology of the Alicante, which is like a snake that like invades the home of pregnant women and breastfeeds while their child and the snake pretends to be the baby so that way it will be breastfed, and to keep the real baby from crying it will put its tail in its mouth. So it kind of plays with that idea. It's so creepy and gross. Sad and creepy and gross. And you know what? I do think it was perfect in how short it was, because I just really didn't need more of that. It gave me the unsettling feeling, and I think it did fairly well. I didn't really relate to the characters as much, but I don't think that that is entirely a hindrance, but I do think that that means that it does have to be a 4-star. So the next one, I can't pronounce. They're insects? Oh dear God. For the people in the back?
Mikek.
Mikek?
Mikek.
That is very close to something else. Anyways, God, it's about bugs? I hate bugs. Great. I'm about to be disgusted. Hello, you are joining me after work in my after work snuggle hoodie with the rest of my coffee, because we are going to be talking about this. So I guess what I decided to do, there's like 15 of these stories, right? There are 15 of these stories, so I decided I will check in with you guys like 3 times, like at every 5 stories. So I have officially read, I think, oh my gosh, 6 stories. So I've read 6 of these stories already. I've already talked to you about the first story, so we're going to talk about the other 5 that I've read. And I will say that I did get nervous with the second story, Makek, because What was even that story? Most of Moreno-Garcia's stories are, if they are not completely talked through, the themes are there, the ideas are there, and I felt like it is a good a good, well enough told story that I am enjoying it. With Mikek, I have no idea what was going on. I mean, like, I understood what was happening, but I didn't get the point. So I gave that a 2 stars because I also really just didn't care or enjoy it. And the characters, because this is so short, there is just a brief moment where the characters have to actually, like, engage me. And I didn't feel that that happened. So the other 4 short stories, though, I gave them all 5 stars. They were amazing. So the first one was Stories with Happy Endings, and this one kind of gave me like Interview with a Vampire vibe, but also like Don't Meet Your Heroes kind of vibe. It was really, really cool. So it was a very short story about a person who is interviewing a vampire, and like it's not even the full interview. It's just how like the idea of living forever isn't as cool as everybody thinks, which I thought was really cool. And it did kind of remind me of like Where She Goes with Certain Dark Things, that novel. And that's what I do really enjoy about these short stories, is because I can see the inserts of her later novels and the ideas that she is developing starting here. Bed of Scorpions, loved. Oh my gosh, I loved that one. 5 stars. So good. Jaguar Woman. I enjoyed this one, but it also reminds me a little bit of like Where Daughter of Dr. Moreau, kind of like those themes that are talked about. So that was pretty cool. I enjoyed it. 5 stars. And Nahuales, amazing. 5 stars. Like, am I just going to sit here and tell you like each short story is like 5 stars? Yes, because within anywhere between 5 and 10 pages, I am getting a story that frightens me or makes me think, or that I think about often, or that has such a twist that I am dumbfounded, am inspired. I love her writing. I love how it doesn't need to be thoroughly talked to. I love that she trusts the reader to be smart enough to pick up on themes, that they don't need to be spoon-fed what she's trying to get across. We can just enjoy the story, and she can sit there with you while you are digesting her theme. And that is what I think makes Moreno-Garcia's writing so powerful, is that she trusts the reader. She's not spoon-feeding you. Not because she thinks she's better than you and she wants you to be, confused, or that she can't write a very cohesive short story. It's that she trusts you to get it and to sit with her in the story. And awe-inspired. Awe-inspired. I was very happy to be reading this last night. I typically was just reading like one at a time, and after I read Mikek, I was like, oh man, I don't know how this is gonna go. But then I read the next one and the next one, and I was like, oh my gosh, can I just keep reading? And then I realized I had already read 6, and I was like, I'm gonna have to check in with you guys before I read more. But this is so good. I love this. I can't wait to keep reading. Hello, it is 11:40 at night, 11:50. I have a cherry vanilla or just a vanilla? What did I grab? A cherry vanilla Coke because I can. But the Coke is not why we are here. We are here to talk about the next couple of stories in this book collection. So I will apologize right now if I'm very low energy. I am just back from the gym. It's late at night. I just had a shower. I'm ready for Betty Bye, except for the fact that I'm drinking this. I'm a contradiction. Don't you love me? So I read the next 5 stories, I think because I started with reviewing 1 story, and then I did 5, and now I'm doing 5 more. I only have 4 more stories left, but we'll talk about that in a second. So in these 5 stories that I just read, Flash Frame was one of them, and I'm going to go kind of out of order because I want to talk about Flash Frame. When I read Flash Frame the first time, I read it as a standalone, and I read it audibly. And this book doesn't have an audiobook, so I've been reading all of these physically, which means that I can sit with the story for a lot longer than I would with the audiobook. And oh my god. I love Flash Frame even more than I did before, and when I finished it, I was like, Mackenzie, did you even read it? Like, you gave it a high rating, but you... what? Like, I didn't remember. It was like reading it for the first time again. What? Am I just captivated by writing that everything else goes away? So Flash Frame is about a nameless, genderless main character who is looking for the next story, and he finds out that this religious sect is going to like the porno movies and showing their own film, and in the film there are like flash frames of this woman in yellow. It is viscerally described and kind of gross, but also really horrific and it's kind of fucked up, and I really liked it. So now going back, I also read The Doppelgangers. I gave that a 5-star as well. That one was kind of horrifying, and it gave me like Strangers the movie vibes, but not really, because it's not about that. It's literally about doppelgangers, which, if you aren't familiar, is a term to describe a person, like in the vaguest sense, a person that looks like the other person. But truly, it was like this German folktale about these like evil spirits that would come and take your place in the world. And that was horrifying. Truly, I loved it. Then we got Driving with Aliens in Tijuana. And it was in this story where I realized that if the gender is not described, I assume that the main character is a man, which sucks, because that means that that's what I'm used to, is just reading stories from cis men, from their perspective, which totally blows, because it was like halfway through this story where I realized the main character was a female when they decided to buy them dresses. And like, I guess it could still be a man, but like, this didn't feel like that kind of story, you know? Also, this one was very weird, and I felt like this one needed a little bit more for me to be okay with what we were talking about, or at least grasp fully what we were talking about. I did enjoy it. I thought it was pretty creepy, and I thought it really lingers on this, like, what if, and what are you willing to give up and to do to change your circumstances? And it gives eerie. Then it was Flash Frame, which I said I gave 5 stars. Then it was Cemetery Man. Interestingly enough, where with driving with aliens in Tijuana, where I needed more of it, with Cemetery Man, I needed so much less of it. It was one of the longest stories, I think, in here. It's 24 pages. Everything else is anywhere between like 5 and 10 pages. And I feel like that is like appropriate for like a really short story. I don't need, like, that one I felt like was so overdone. They gave me too much, and I knew what was going on at the very beginning. So Cemetery Man, we follow another female main character who is a soldier who is taken by this person called the Cemetery Man, or a resurrectionist, and she is afraid she is being experimented on, and it goes from there, and it's crazy. But I needed so much less of it. There was so much buildup, and I didn't need it. But it was still really good. Like, I have yet to give anything lower. I mean, I did give Makek a 2-star, but that was because I just didn't understand what we were doing. And to this day, I don't know. Finally, though, I read The Death Collector. I read The Death Collector and started to reevaluate what a 5-star means, and like, how can all of these be a 5-star if Death Collector exists? It was really good. It was very like creepy, horrifying, as opposed to like eerie. It was so creepy. It was kind of horrific. This short story really kind of, I haven't read Mrs. Death, but this short story reminds me of what that story might be. Did that make sense? Can it remind me of something I didn't read? But like, it was very much talking about this entity, this person. Jack, don't play with that. This person, this entity that is collecting deaths, and they are collecting this specific death of a person named Ramon. You did so good going under that. Oh my god, I'm so proud of you. Last time you just pulled the whole thing. It was creepy in the way that real life is creepy and haunting. Haunting is a good word, I think. Okay, so like I said, we only have 4 stories left. One of them is the titular short story, The Strange Way of Dying. Then we have Bloodlines, Shades of the Seba Tree? I'm not pronouncing that right. I'm going to look it up and then tell you, because I know that I'm not saying it right. And then Snow. So 4 more stories, and then we are finished with this beauty. And can I just say, like, even if we include McKeck, most of these are a 5-star read for me. This is a bomb-ass book of short stories, and I really feel like I am coming to love the format of short stories. How wonderful is it to get like just the perfect bite? You know, in The Glass Onion, when he's talking about his chef friend trying to get the most perfect bite, and then he like says that's what the mystery is. Like, it's the most perfect. It's so good. So I'm really enjoying this. I feel like even if all of the stories flop in the next end, I feel like this was still such a wonderful read regardless. And it, like, honestly, all of them are going to have to get a 2-star from here on out for this rating to go any lower than, like, I don't know, a 4.75. I think because we got to average it out. So it's definitely getting a high rating. So we'll see how it goes. I will check in with you at the end of this. Hello, we are back with the last set of reviews for This Strange Way of Dying. Let's get into them because they were freaking great. So first we had the titular story, This Strange Way of Dying, which honestly, to me, this one and Shade of the Seba Tree, which I looked up and it is pronounced Seba, are 2 stories that either informed or inspired Gods of Jade and Shadow. They are the most creepy but layered with like death god but love and just depth of emotion. Like, I can't really, I guess, explain so much except that it gave off those vibes. This Strange Way of Dying is about a woman, a girl, who meets death, and death is about to take her grandmother, and she's like, please do not. And he's like, okay, I will give her 7 more years. And then he gives her 7 more years, and he comes to take payment in the form of a promise. And it is about love and how love feels like you're dying. And I really enjoy that idea. It's a very, like, I guess, Gothic way to view loving someone, as not being the thing that, I guess, makes you feel alive, but the thing that kills you and makes you feel dead. And the only way you'll feel better is to be with that person. So I very much enjoyed that very macabre look at death. I gave that 5 stars. Obviously. Then I read Bloodlines, which is about a group of 3 teenage witches who are part of the same bloodline. And it's a really, really interesting look at witches, but also at family dynamics and what it means to have power over somebody else. It was creepy and cool and awesome, and not as creepy as a lot of the other stories that are happening in here. However, it's still really cool. So after Bloodlines, we had Shade of the Seba Tree, which was a little bit shorter. I feel like Bloodlines and This Strange Way of Dying were the longest stories in this collection, but everything else has been really rather short. And this one as well was rather short. Shade of the Seba Tree is, it doesn't go into a lot of depth of like the world building. Like, I could have had more, but what was important was this girl's relationship with her sister and how her sister is taken to be sacrificed, and she ends up going to be sacrificed as well to try and save her sister in some version. And it was very good for her vibes. A lot of this book is like good for her vibes, which I love, but it also, there's like a melancholia about it, because in order for it to be good for her, she has to have been hurt or used in some way. It is a given for the trope. It sucks. However, it's not that it doesn't feel like a full circle of justice comes back around. And then finally, we ended the stories on Snow, which I felt was a very weak ending. I think I would have liked if Shade of the Sabre-Tree was the last story, because Snow, I only gave 3 stars, and I gave Shade of the Sabre-Tree 5 stars. Snow, I feel like, needed more. Like, the ideas are kind of there, and I feel like a lot of the times when people write about snow or winter or the depressing landscape, they're definitely trying to say something, but I very often feel like they stop just at the point where they've bridged the gap. And unfortunately, Moreno-Garcia is in kind of that same boat, where I'm sure she's trying to talk about loneliness and feeling like an outsider and an outcast and what it means to truly be alone. However, there wasn't enough of a gap, like a bridging of that gap, to where I felt like, wow, this was impactful. So I gave it a 3 stars because I could see where it was going with it, but it didn't quite get me there. So I feel like it was a weaker ending than it could have had. Like I said, I feel like it should have been the Shade of the Sabre-Tree. And also, like, I would really love to redo the ordering of the stories. I think it should go Scales as Pale as Moonlight, then Stories with Happy Endings, then maybe even Bed of Scorpions, Jaguar Woman, and then Makek, and then Nahuales, because I really feel like Jaguar Woman and Nahuales are kind of like, a lot of these stories feel like she has a bunch of ideas for like the same kind of story, and so she's trying them all out, which is totally fine and fair. But to break it up and make me feel like different things are happening, or the reader, not just me, the reader to feel like there are different things happening, I feel like if you broke up Jaguar Woman and Nahuales and put Makek in there, then it would be kind of more of like a break in between, and maybe there would be more, like, even to this day, this 2-star rating I gave Makek stands. Like, what even was that? For what? So I really don't feel like it should have been the second story. It really needed to be more in the middle. And then everything else feels fine, aside from, I feel like after The Death Collector, it should have been Snow. Then This Strange Way of Dying, Bloodlines, and then The Shade of the Sabre-Tree. That would have been a more perfect ending, and I think a better ordering of the stories. But I'm not an author, I'm not an editor, and I am not Silvia Moreno-Garcia, so that was all my opinion. If we were gonna do an average, let's actually do math. So I actually did math to make sure I wasn't giving you a bunk average. 15 stories in here. I have majority 5 stars, 1 2-star, 2 4 stars, 1 3-star. So with that average, it turns out to be a 4.53. So that is what I am going to be putting in on my call pile, is that it's a 4.53 star rating, I guess. So I loved this. This was great. And for this to be Silvia Moreno-Garcia's debut anything. What a beautiful short story collection that, if you are someone who really enjoys her work, it not only are great stories, but they help you be informed of how she got certain ideas for other things. Jaguar Woman really, really informs the way Daughter of Dr. Moreau was written. We have some things in here that are very like, that remind me of certain dark things. We have some things that remind me of The Beautiful Ones, but we also have heavy themes and topics that very much remind me of Gods of Jade and Shadow, and it's really nice to have read all of the novels and then to come back to the short stories so you can kind of like see where everything comes from. And if I were to recommend where in your Silvia Moreno-Garcia reading journey you would read this one, I would say read all of the novels first, and then read this one. Oh my gosh, Signal to Noise is also very much like Bloodlines. Like, this was such a fun experience to have already had so much of her work under my belt, and then to see where these ideas stemmed from. Obviously, these were short stories, and everything else in this, like, these short stories are not snippets of the novels at all. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the ideas and the themes and the types of supernatural ideas that are explored in this, you can see those themes in the novels. Not that this should or does take the place of the novels, but it's very interesting to see how this being published first and everything else being subsequently published, you can see where her thoughts go. And that is a special, special thing. And I've really enjoyed this experience. So I guess I'm ending this here with you. I'm officially caught up on all of my Moreno-Garcia. I'm very sad about it, but we do have Silver Nitrate that's coming out in July, which I'm very excited about. We only have 6 more months, but it is coming out. And then there is another one coming out in 2024, and I'm forgetting the name of it. I'll pop up either the title or the cover. Something is available right now, and I'll pop it up right here. But thank you so much for joining me on my journey reading Silvia Moreno-Garcia, my favorite author ever. Let me know in the comments if you are looking to read Silvia Moreno-Garcia or start your journey, and if you are looking for recommendations on where to start. I think, and I truly honestly believe, that Moreno-Garcia is the type of author who has something for everybody. So if you let me know what you're into, I will tell you what you should start with to read. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next one, babes. Bye!